Hello, I'm Amy and welcome to the To Explore Wellness channel. Today we are going to be making this absolutely delicious French toast bake. This recipe is high in protein, lower in calories. It's perfect for meal prep or even making a large portion to serve a crowd for brunch or breakfast. It takes just a few ingredients and is absolutely delicious. So let's go ahead and make it. Before we get into actually making the recipe, I'm just gonna go over a few things about the recipe. So this is going to be a high protein French toast bake that's perfect for meal prep, for family breakfast, even if you wanna make a bigger batch if you're serving it for brunch or for holiday gatherings. It's a great recipe to use when you wanna make a large portion. And to be honest, you can make a small single serve as well. I'm going to be making an apple cinnamon almond version, but you can feel free to adjust the ingredients to make it your own needs. So you could do a blueberry version. You could do a double chocolate version. There are a bunch of different ways that you can adjust this recipe to meet your own needs. You can use a gluten-free bread. You could use dairy-free yogurts and protein powders. So there's a lot of different leeway and adjustments that you can make to make this recipe your own and fit your own individual needs. Now this exact version I'm making ends up being roughly 300 calories and 28 grams of protein. So it's also a great recipe if you're on a weight loss or maintenance journey, trying to watch those calories, trying to get the protein in. This is a great option for you to make. Plus, it's something that everyone's going to enjoy. It's not like a diet food, if you will, which is really what my channel is all about. It's about making healthy and delicious options that are great for weight loss, maintenance, health goals, all that good stuff. High protein, lower in calories, good for you ingredients. So if you haven't hit subscribe, please make sure to do so, because if you like this recipe, I have a feeling you're gonna wanna stick around. The ingredients I'm going to be using for this are eggs, apples, protein shake, protein powder, Greek yogurt. Of course, we have bread, and this is the perfect way to use up those end pieces that always seem to get left in the bag. And I'm also gonna use some almonds. The protein powder acts as a sweetener for this. You can also add extra vanilla or a little bit of maple syrup, but I think it's also good with a little bit of maple syrup on top. You can also swap some of the eggs for egg whites or use all egg whites to save on calories, but the eggs do provide nice healthy fat. So, I tend to usually use a mix, but again, do whatever works to meet your needs. Oh, and cinnamon, since it's an apple cinnamon nut version. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna go ahead first and just get our eggs in the bowl here. Oops. Make sure to wash your hands first too. Now, like I said, eggs provide great healthy fat, and it's what really holds this all together. So they are a necessary ingredient, just like in regular French toast. Ugh, so clumsy today. All right, and our last egg. And again, feel free to replace with egg whites. I believe each egg is roughly 50 grams or quarter of a cup egg whites. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and add our protein shake. Now you can also swap this with milk, and this is half of a cup. And the last of our wet ingredients is going to be Greek yogurt. You can use plain, you can use vanilla. I actually used both, and it is roughly 3/4 of a cup. So this is another great way to add protein and other essential nutrients in your diet. Okay, so we have all of our wet ingredients in the bowl. So now we're gonna go ahead and add the dry ingredients and then mix it all up. You can add some cinnamon to taste. I put in a lot. And I'm actually gonna use 2 types of protein powders, but you do not have to, you can just use one. I just decided to kind of like change up the flavor a little bit. So one of these protein powders is going to be a cinnamon protein powder. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that in. And I will have the links to the protein powders I'm using in the description, as well as I have discount codes for both of these. This one is a whey protein powder, and this one is a whey casein blend. With this recipe, pretty much any protein powder will work, except the consistency may come out slightly differently depending on which one you're choosing. And I'm actually gonna save a little bit of my whey casein blend for a little bit of an icing at the end. Feel free to use extra. Mine just came in packets, so it's easier for me to just save some of this. So I'm just gonna put it in and save maybe a tablespoon of 2 for the sauce. You get all the protein from it, and I'll show you how to make the drizzle at the end of the recipe. So now we're gonna go ahead and whisk up these ingredients. All right, so just gonna whisk these up until well combined, getting all of it mixed in, breaking up the egg yolks. You see we're getting a pretty thick mixture, and we're almost there. All right, that looks good. Now you can either break up your bread directly in this, or I'm gonna go ahead and just pour this mixture over it once I get my baking dish set up. All right, so what we're gonna do is we are going to turn this upside down, and you will also need a pair of scissors. What you're going to do is just lay the parchment paper on top so that it's nice and centered. I'm just gonna move it so you can see. We're gonna cut diagonally from each corner. We're just going from the edge into the corner and go all the way into that corner. Okay, so we have it like that. So we're just gonna do that on each one. Obviously you want a piece that is big enough that it goes up the sides of your dish so that it keeps everything nice and clean. Okay, to that corner, and then one more. Keep checking that they're aligned. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead, flip our dish over. We're just going to put it in here, and it takes a second to kind of set it up. You can see that the corners fit a lot more easily than what they would have. Okay, and you can trim the edges if you want. I also find that it stays better if I crease it a little bit, so it kind of sits in the dish better. It's a great method to help your parchment paper fit properly in your dish. And I'm just trimming the edges for presentation, but I don't do this if I'm not filming it or photographing it. So now we're gonna go ahead and prepare our bread for the French toast. I'm using about 5 slices. You can use as many or as little as you need for the amount of portions. This recipe is going to make 4 portions, and obviously the size of your bread will depend on, how big you want it. Now, you can totally break it up. I have to take the cutting board out anyway for the apple, so it's more efficient to do it this way, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and chop into chunks. Maybe I shouldn't have done all 5 at once, but hey, it's working all right. Roughly 1-inch pieces, I suppose. You can honestly do multiple sizes if you want. You can do some that are larger and some that are smaller. And again, this is the perfect way to use those end pieces that nobody seems to want to eat. I hate wasting food, so this is what I typically save mine for. All right, and we've got it all chopped up. And you can either mix these in a separate bowl with the apples, but I'm just gonna go ahead and lay them out in my parchment lined dish. And I love seed bread. It adds extra nutrients, so I definitely wanna get all those seeds and crumbs in there. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and chop our apple. You wanna make the apple fairly small pieces. You can use whatever apple you want. I think this is a Pink Lady apple. That's usually what I buy just because I really like them. So now we're just gonna cut these into smaller chunks. You can make them diced, really small. I'm making them about the same size as our bread pieces. You can do more than 1 apple. Just depends on how apple you want it. It adds great flavor. It adds great fiber. It adds nutrients, so highly recommend. You can take off the skin too. I'm the kind of person that pretty much never does that, but feel free. I, again, like the fiber and nutrients of the skin, and with this recipe, I really don't think it matters. And I'm gonna try to get all the stuff off the core, but then I'm definitely gonna snack on the rest. You know what, since this is 4 servings, I think I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more apple to this so that you get at least half an apple in your serving. I'm actually also going to dice this one a little smaller so that it sort of fits into the crevices of the bread. So you can either put the apples in the batter that we mixed up before, or you can just kind of put it in with the bread. So I'm just gonna kind of mix up some of the small ones, and we're just gonna go ahead and load these in. And what you can also do at this time is put some of the almonds and mix them in. I really like the almonds on top because it gives a little bit of a crispy layer, but we're gonna just do a little bit of both. So I'm gonna add all of this in and then mix it up. This is what we've got. So now what we're gonna go ahead and do is pour in our mixture here. And we're just gonna pour it on. Get everything nice and soaked, get every corner. I'm gonna grab my spatula so I can get the rest of this. Gotta get every last drop. Again, I'm not someone who wastes food, so I always have to get everything. So let me know in the comments, what version would you make of this? Would you make this apple cinnamon nut version, or would you go for a different combo? Again, this is a great breakfast for meal prep, for serving a crowd. Now I'm filming this right before Thanksgiving, so this is great for like if you have guests for Thanksgiving, a Thanksgiving breakfast, or maybe the Friday after, or Christmas breakfast. So it's great to serve to your family, a crowd, or just meal prep. And if you have to, just make sure that all of your bread is coated and soaked in the mixture. Make sure it's all even, right? So that looks pretty good. I forgot to remind you to preheat your oven to 350 before we put this in the oven. We are going to just top it off with the remainder of the almonds. So we're just gonna put the almonds on top. It gives it sort of a nice crispy, crunchy crust. Perfect. Get this in our oven. While it's in the oven for roughly 30 minutes, give or take, we're gonna go ahead and mix up the drizzle, which is just the protein powder. A whey casein blend works the best for this. Whey stays a little bit watery and casein clumps up. I've also found the same with plant-based. So I highly recommend a whey casein blend with this one, but we're just gonna mix it up with a little bit of milk. And maple syrup is optional. You can always add this just on the side later, but it kind of just adds that extra sweet topping to it. Just wanna make sure I bring you in for a close-up here so you can see the texture. Now, I believe I usually do like a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, I'm not gonna measure this. I'm just gonna eyeball it. So that looks like about a tablespoon. Do a tablespoon and a half of milk and just a dash of maple syrup. Okay, and we're just gonna mix this up. Uh-oh, I added too much milk. You know what? This usually thickens up in the fridge a little bit, so I am going to leave this in the fridge. It can also be thickened up with a bit of yogurt if you prefer that as well. But you can see it's drizzly, but in order to kind of hold its shape, I usually keep it a little bit thicker, but we'll see what happens when I stick this in the fridge. While we're waiting for that to bake, I figured I'd show you the ingredients of the bread I use. So I actually get this bread from Aldi. I love the flavor and I love the ingredients. Now that ingredient list, I know it looks long, but it's organic and great ingredients. It has things like whole wheat flour, whole grain and seed mix, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds. It's like literally a ton of seeds. Let's see, 2 grams of fiber. Could be higher in the fiber, but I'll let it slide. But it is free from artificial ingredients and preservatives. So I really do like this bread. It also comes in 2 different sizes. I like the smaller slices, which are 70 calories a piece. I think the larger ones are like 120. Our bake is out of the oven. It did take roughly 30 minutes. That'll also depend on how thick yours is, but let's go ahead and take it out. And I love how easy it comes out with this parchment paper. The sauce did thicken up, but now too much. So I'm just gonna adjust this slightly so it doesn't fall in clumps. So we're just gonna take our drizzle and just put it right on top. Now, obviously this step is totally optional. You can just add the rest of this into the recipe itself, or, you know, serve it with some presentation and extra sweetness. This is delicious alone. It's great with some honey or maple syrup on top. Whatever works for your preference. Voila. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe buttons so that you don't miss out on any more high protein and delicious recipes. Thanks for joining, and see you next time.